Two college football heavyweights, Texas A&M and Alabama, throwing down in Tuscaloosa. Nick Saban's Crimson Tide, an undefeated 29-0 at home during the month of October. Jimbo Fisher and company trying to nix that number with consecutive victories against the Tide for the first time in school history. Plenty of drama heading into this one. Our team site reporters Brian Perroni and Travis Reier here to break it all down. And guys, both teams dealing with injuries to their starting quarterbacks. For the Aggies, Max Johnson left the game in Starkville with an injury to his throwing hand. He was replaced by Haynes King. Bryce Young left the game in Arkansas with a sprain to his shoulder. So Travis, start us off here. If Bryce Young can't go, how much of the playbook is available to back up Jalen Milroe?
It's a great question, Grace, and it remains to be seen. Although I will say that during his relief performance in Fayetteville, they didn't really go to a modified approach. Now, certainly not to the extent that you would see with Bryce in there, especially where the passing game is concerned, but still were able to access a good bit of the playbook. You know, Jalen hung in there, kind of got his feet under him. They gave him some easy throws, like the quick screen to JoJo Earle for the touchdown there late in the second quarter. But when they needed him the most, he delivered. 28-23 game, and he set sail on that 77-yard quarterback run that essentially put the game on ice. So intangibly, I think you had to be very encouraged by what you saw from Jalen Milroe in that game. And 5 scoring drives for Alabama while he was in there. So this is a guy that is very talented, probably more in the way of some design quarterback runs and some RPOs and zone read and those type of things if he is the guy this week. But I wouldn't go as far as to say a totally scaled down, stripped down approach offensively.
So unlike Alabama, A&M starting quarterback is not a reigning Heisman Trophy winner. Max Johnson took over the job in the third game of the season. He has not been a world beater, but has been better than Haynes King. When Johnson went down against Mississippi State, King came in. He threw 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. So A&M would love to have Max Johnson back, but it's not clear at this point since he suffered an injury to his throwing hand, which is definitely tough to overcome, and he has not returned to practice just yet. But interestingly enough, Jalen Milroe is a familiar name to Aggie fans and to the Aggie coaches, as he's from just down the road in Katy, Texas, and A&M was recruiting him relatively heavily in the 2021 class. They decided to go with Eli Stowers instead, so did not push for Milroe at the end, but they are definitely really familiar with him.
Now the quarterbacks on each side, depending on help from their running backs in this game, Jamir Gibbs and Devonta Chain, 2 of the most explosive backs in college football. In A-Chain's case, sometimes he is the offense for Texas A&M. Yes. Brian, how much pressure is on A-Chain this weekend to get the Aggies off to a quick start?
Oh, there is a ton of pressure on him. A&M is 98th in the country in rushing offense, but A-Chain is 3rd in the SEC. So it has been all him. And until Moose Muhammad III had a big end of third quarter and fourth quarter against Mississippi State, the offense had been A-Chain, and that was it. So there's a lot of pressure. He's not the biggest guy. He's a track star that has speed, but he has been a workhorse this year, and he'll definitely need to have a huge game against Bama because A&M really does not have anything else in the running game.
Yeah, you talk about A-Chain. He was very impactful in that upset win of Alabama a year ago in College Station, not just on the offensive side of the ball where he had 10 touches for 79 scrimmage yards, but, of course, a huge 96-yard kickoff return for a touchdown in that win over Alabama. So from the Alabama side of things, yeah, Jamir Gibbs, believe it or not, those were his first 2 rushing touchdowns of the season last Saturday in Fayetteville. I'd say he made them count. Both of 70-plus yards. And you see the type of action they like to work him on. And I think it's similar to A-Chain. They like to get him moving maybe more on the perimeter with the zone approach, and then he finds a crease, and he has that one-step ability to get to a high speed and score from anywhere on the field. So encouraging to say the least for Alabama to rush for 242 yards in the fourth quarter last Saturday, especially with Bryce Young out. And if Young is either limited or out altogether, I'd say similar to A-Chain from the A&M perspective, Jamir Gibbs, Jace McClellan, 2 guys that are going to have a lot on their plate.
Yeah, they can certainly take the pressure off Milroe as the backup. Now, guys, during talking season back in July, everybody had October 8th circled on the calendar simply for all the offseason drama we saw between these two head coaches. Nick Saban accusing A&M of buying prospects, and Jimbo Fisher called a press conference just to refute it. We got a bunch of memes out of it. Twitter was on fire. It was a great time. Maybe the hype has settled a bit, but still a huge recruiting weekend here. Travis, what's this game mean for the recruits at Bryant-Denny?
Yeah, they've got one of the very best edge defenders in the 2023 cycle on campus officially this weekend, Grace, in Keon Keeley, previously committed to Notre Dame, 5-star prospect from Tampa. Got a couple of other big-time guys that they would like to get into the boat, including a Deuce Robinson, a tight end from Phoenix, Arizona. So they have some official visitors who are already committed to the Crimson Tide, but it extends beyond official visits because this is a center page type of game that you want to get guys in town for. And so beyond the 2023 class, you're talking about 2024 and beyond. So absolutely, the hype, it seems, between Nick and Jimbo is settled into more of like a brotherly spat from the offseason. But as far as recruiting goes, huge for Crimson Tide fans.
Yeah, so A&M actually had a game against Miami earlier this year that it was their most loaded recruiting weekend in quite some time. And it was a lot of targets that Miami was after. So Miami was really hoping for the win, and able to impress visitors that were visiting another school. Well, A&M would love to do the same thing against Alabama. They would love to pull the upset because a lot of their targets are there too. One of the big ones I assume will be there is Tony Mitchell, a 5-star defensive back from just down the road. He's visited A&M a couple times since committing to Alabama, so they would love to get a win in front of him and in front of all those 4- and 5-star guys that Travis mentioned. And like you guys have said, the spat has sort of calmed down a bit. Neither coach has really touched on it, but I know that both of them have big prides and would love to get this win. Fisher would love to beat his former boss for a second time, and Saban, I'm sure, would like to make up for the game last year.
Hey, even if it is just a brotherly spat, it's always fun to get that last laugh. All right, Brian and Travis, thanks for your time. And for all your Aggies and Crimson Tide news, head on over to gig'em247.com and BamaOnline.